Story 1. You are too optimistic. If Donald Trump loses, he will be the topic of conversation until at least January 6th. If he wins, he will be the topic of conversation until 2028. Story 2. As someone from the United Kingdom, if the election ending will actually change things, which it won't, American politics affects too much of the world's news cycle, I would be extremely ecstatic, like naked cartwheeling down the street ecstatic. I am sick to death of hearing about all American politics. Story 3. Trump lost the last time, and it continues to be about him for 4 years not in office. It won't stop being about him until they stop pushing it being about him. The election results either way won't matter on that point. Story 4. There will be questions about both Trump. Can you believe this is what Donald Trump tried to do yesterday? And Harris, didn't Harris promise to blank when she was president? Why hasn't she blank yet? Story 5. Whether or not Trump wins or loses, in 4 years Reddit is going to be exactly the same with the next Republican candidate. Mark my words, in 4 to 8 years people are going to say Trump was a moderate compared to whoever that's going to be. Story 6. I am really tired of the media circus and will be glad that I will not have to witness it again. Then attention can be brought to the situation in Russia. Story 7. Every other question will just be about who won or how the court battles and ensuing civil war are going. This question is a bit naive in thinking that all the chatter immediately stops the day after Election Day. Story 8. Then the cult-like denials will begin. It's not their fault everything is bad. They just have the world's best economists and the best advisors on planet Earth helping them make decisions and yet somehow mess everything up. It's not their fault because I can't accept I was wrong about the party I voted for. That's how it's been for the past 8 years on both sides. Delusion all around. Story 9. If Harris wins, every other question will be rhetorical, like, how awesome is it to have President Kamala? If Trump wins, it will be concerns like, I'm afraid for my life. How do I build a bunker to hide from the Nazis who are coming for me? We won't escape it ever. The real question is, what if Kamala wins and Trump drops dead the next day? How long can Democrats blame a dead man? Story 10. As someone in the United Kingdom, I find it odd how close it is because on here it's more or less impossible to find a Trump supporter on any of the subreddits I visit. Story 11. Reddit has been inundated with American politics since 2015. It is not going away until Reddit itself bans politics and news, which is never happening even though it should. Story 12. I have enjoyed reading all the United States election posts and found some of the comments absolutely hilarious. I will miss the witty, wacky, and funny sense of humor from some Redditors. Story 13. Every other question will still be about Trump or Harris. If Harris wins, the questions will be about how people feel about the job she is doing and what people think Trump will try to attempt for his 2028 run, whether or not he will be in more scandals, whether or not he will go to prison for his current ones, and so on. If Trump wins, every other question will be about how people feel about the job he is doing and what people think Harris will try in order to secure a 2028 run or who she will endorse in her stead, whether or not Trump's every word and action is impeachable, and so on. It's going to continue to be a mess for at least another 18 months. Story 14. I will definitely be relieved when Reddit and every other media moves on to something else. If Donald Trump wins, we have to deal with him trying to be a tyrant while he continues to mentally decline. If he loses, we have to worry about January 6th, the sequel. Story 15. The red versus blue battles will just shift to the next orchestrated outrage. We have to keep fighting each other so we don't get close enough to figure out who our common enemy is. Story 16. Can't wait. So sick of all the political nonsense. Just want to enjoy Reddit threads without some waste of insignificant fluid coming on making a post or replying to a post with hate towards one candidate or the other. Just utterly tired of this garbage. Story 17. I would say I would be glad to see people not doing whiny, passive-aggressive posts about how tired they are of seeing posts about politics, but we all know that these people will just find something else to complain about. Story 18. I wonder how much longer Reddit will be around or viable. Something I've observed in the past year or so is how many subscriber counts have wide disparities. Case in point, as of writing, Ask Reddit has 48,931,102 subscribers, but only 14,124 online, and it's approaching midday in the US. I think money is being poured in, and on November 7th, that money will be dried up and we will see what is left. Story 19. Laugh out loud. You think it's going to end? The election is the start. Consider that Donald Trump has been in the news every day since he lost to Joe Biden. This is going to be that on overdrive if he loses, and if he wins, oh boy, are we in for it. Story 20. Relieved. Once upon a time, our political beliefs were kept private. It was considered shameful to discuss politics, even taboo. Now it seems like that's all people care to talk about. Story 21. Win or lose, Trump will remain in the news for quite some time. The coming drama of his sentencing and the public response to it, the inability of him and the grand old party not accepting a defeat, the large number of crazed, well-armed Trump supporters convinced they were robbed, the billionaires pumping money to pro-fascist ideologies, all these will continue. Story 22. Honestly, for me, the best part will be not receiving the same flyers for congresspeople over and over again, both by physical and electronic means. The number of contacts I've blocked for texts from the same candidate is insane. Story 23. That's funny. If Harris doesn't win, it will be political until the next one. If Harris does win, it will still be all about the orange man for at least a long while. You guys simply cannot help yourselves. This is an echo chamber. The entire website is an echo chamber. It is not going to change. What will change is every question posted will be from a bot who has farmed the last 10 years of high upvoted subjects. Good luck. It's about 50% now. Story 24. Well, in one scenario, we will go back to our livelihoods. In the other, though, our days with access to much like our rights are limited. So we probably won't see much. Story 25. Relieved. But here is a question for you. What is the single thing most threatening to our democracy? Answer: political parties. You won't realize this until you leave the matrix. Story 26. Honestly, I just want us Americans to come together and stop this Democrats versus Republicans nonsense. Like for real, I honestly hate both parties and they do not care about us. But what I do like is that a particular candidate wants to eliminate federal income taxes. I think that is awesome because not gonna lie, seeing how much more money I will have is pretty cool. Story 27. I'm sick to death of the noise and darkness. But I know American politics will dominate the airwaves until it's finally gone. And that's a long time from now. Writing this from Australia, my God, you people take up space and oxygen. Even the good side of your political parties is like living with a 3-year-old sociopath holding a gun and wanting a hug from a parent. I'll be glad a week from now when the conversation has changed. But you will then just be unleashing a new flavor of chaos on the world. Story 28. I posted this the other day in my local city subreddit. I'm burnt out on this election. I'm tired of the non-stop text messages asking me to donate to Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. I'm tired of seeing signs, whether simply stating Donald Trump 2024 or Kamala Harris 2024, or funny signs like this one. I'm tired of Make America Great Again hats and Donald Trump flags on pickup trucks. I'm tired of seeing video clips of Donald Trump or Kamala Harris cut to make them sound worse than they really are, or cut to make them sound better. I'm tired of everyone thinking that they need to tell me what their opinion is of our government, like I haven't already heard it from everyone else. I feel like presidential races weren't filled with as much mudslinging as they are now. It used to be candidate A says, here's my plan. Then candidate B says, that's a good plan, but here's my plan and I think it's better. Then candidate A says, that's also a good plan, but I still think mine is better. They smile, shake hands, and continue forward. Now it's constant personal attacks, it's people screaming at people, and they're both not saying anything. At this point, I feel like no one is voting for Kamala Harris because they want her to win. They just don't want Donald Trump to win. So the candidate could be a sack of potatoes and people would say, Potato Sack 2024. Conversely, people are voting for Donald Trump because they're racist and sexist and don't want to see a woman of color in the White House. Donald Trump could come out and say, I will personally spit in all of your mouths. And the voters would say, at least it's a white man doing it. Better than Kamala. I'm just so tired. Voter fatigue is a real thing and I'm experiencing it. Story 29. I live all the way over in Denmark, and I just hope there will come a day when we no longer have to see or hear anything from Trump or related to Trump. I still wonder how so many people in a country can vote for such an obvious degenerate. Story 30. Hopefully, it stops popping up in my algorithm. Laughing out loud. Reddit is like 95% against Trump, and it's just so frustrating the amount of misinformation and propaganda being pushed on here. Story 31. If Trump wins again, people are going to lose their minds, and I'll have to suffer through people talking about him all the time. It's going to be extremely annoying. If Harris wins, it's going to be less annoying. The people who like Trump will complain, but they'll keep it contained to their areas online, so I won't have to see or hear it. But I just know if Trump wins, everyone in my family is going to be watching some awful news channel like Cable News Network 24/7, which will just turn into the Trump bad station like it did when he was the president. And every time I get up to get some water, it'll be, guess what Trump said? He's a bad man. Oh my God. I don't care. Oh my God. I don't care. I'm a millennial. I wouldn't care if an asteroid blew up the Earth tomorrow. I'd look forward to it, in fact, so that all my problems went away. I don't think either of these candidates are good. The stupid pandering Harris does is so annoying. Her ignorance is mind-numbing. Her whole rant about how it's good to be woke. Jesus Christ. But I know if Trump wins, my quality of life will diminish because it'll be 4 more years of whining. So I guess I hope Harris wins for that reason alone. Also, Project 2025 is the dumbest, worst thing I've ever seen. Anyone who supports it is an idiot. It's full of nonsense that wants to censor far more than any far-left idiot you've seen on social media platform. It's full-on horseshoe theory on full display. Story 32. A prominent Buddhist monk once said, "Politics never ends." On one hand, that should be obvious. But I guess in the back of my mind, I thought we were all progressing to something. You know, progressive politics, progression. But he's right. It will never end. It doesn't matter who wins. The China-Russia alliance is just warming up. Maybe every second question won't be about that, but it will be about something world-changing because the world is always changing. Story 33. I remember on election night 2012, watching the commentators already discussing the 2016 election and candidates. We no longer have election season in our always-on social media-connected society that needs clicks for revenue. The 2028 election will begin before the current one is certified. Story 34. Do you think it's really going to stop? There's another election in 4 years, and it's going to be the most important election of your lifetime also. Trump winning would just set off the nuclear bombs on Reddit, and this place will be a madhouse. Story 35. I love how people think the media will just drop their cash cow immediately after the election. We'll be hearing about him for a while, folks. It's up to us to stop clicking on the bait. Story 36. Just be nice if Reddit was the fun it once was at some point. I feel like I can't go to an astronomy subreddit post without death threat level comments coming out of nowhere from either side. Story 37. You are absolutely kidding yourself if you think anyone is ever going to stop talking about Trump, especially if he wins. Maybe in a few years if he loses, until he dies and there's a huge renaissance with Trump topics. Story 38. Not sure it will end immediately. If Trump wins, there will probably be a lot of Reddit, how could we Americans literally elect a fascist? And if he loses, it will be Reddit, how did your Trump-supporting relatives react to Trump's loss? Story 39. Depends on who wins and by how much. Trump hasn't spent any campaign funds on his ground game, which usually accounts for a huge chunk of a campaign's spending. So he's either sitting on that money to pocket it or he's saving it for fighting the election results. Story 40. I do not live in the United States, and I am just old enough to remember the pain of President George W. Bush. Every election you have had in my lifetime has been the most horrible and most important ever. At the end of the day, this one is no different. There is just a big machine of dichotomy splitting everyone right down the middle hard. Story 41. Regardless of who wins, corporations will still collect all of the intellectual property and smaller companies. Artificial intelligence will continue to threaten our ability to work. Androids will start appearing everywhere. Scandals will continue to affect major institutions. Money will be harder to acquire, and people will still choose sides instead of thinking for themselves. Story 42. The day after Election Day will mean that there will be 1,461 days until the next presidential election. So, November 6th will be the start of the next election season. Story 43. It will be so great. All the people who disagree with me will realize they were wrong and peacefully accept the results of the election without complaint. Story 44. Happy it's over either way because the not knowing is killing me. If Harris wins, I'll be relieved. If Trump wins, I'll be terrified and start putting my escape plan into place. Story 45. If he loses, won't he just run again in 4 years and we'll be right back here? Am I missing something obvious that should make me more optimistic? Story 46. I just hope this ends after the election. I'm expecting a situation similar to Gore versus Bush in at least 4 to 5 states. Recounts, chads, court cases, contested results. And even if we have a definitive winner by Thanksgiving, I think the election cycle is continuous, and we'll see fundraising for the next election start before Christmas. Then we have to wait for a potential surprise in January. I'd love to be wrong,